What if you could do actual woodworking with only a laser? I love lasers, but I hate the way laser cut furniture looks. So today, I'm challenging myself to make a side table that looks like traditional fine woodworking, complete with thick legs, beautiful joinery, and a classic look. And we're gonna do this all with the xTool P2 and push this machine to its limits. If you're thinking laser cutters can't cut wood this thick, you're right. But I got a few tricks to show you. We're gonna do some things I haven't seen anybody else do with a laser, and I'm gonna show you that the only power tool I need today is the xTool P2. We are back from my plywood dealer. I got some 1/8 inch thick 5 foot by 5 foot sheets of Baltic birch plywood. We're gonna cut it down so it will fit into the xTool. A lot of plywood dealers will cut the plywood down for you if you don't have a table saw. Hold up. Didn't I just get done saying the challenge of this project was to only use a laser? And here I am cutting up plywood on the table saw. Calm down. Here's the thing. You can get plywood already cut down to size from xTool, and it has this little code on there, which the machine will read and then automatically set all the settings. So you don't even have to worry about that. That's pretty freaking cool. You can't get mad at me for wanting to cut up my own material. If this is the only rule I break today, then I'm not breaking enough rules. Repetitive cuts at the table saw are the most dangerous cuts. You can't get into the zone at the table saw. So every time I make a cut, I'm repeating to myself, watch your fingers. This is more than what we need, but now I'll always have a supply of 1/8 inch plywood that will fit into the xTool. I want to be able to register all the pieces, so when we're gluing up the layers, it doesn't, they're perfectly in line with each other. So within the legs, I'm going to have a hole cut out and then use a dowel for that registration. So this is a 3/8 inch dowel. I'm gonna cut out a 3/8 inch circle and see if there's, I gotta find my tolerance because I want a nice tight fit. So I'm gonna stick a piece of scrap plywood in there and cut that size circle out and see if this fits in there. Look, that's a nice looking machine. Yeah, you zoom in on that. There's a camera inside there. It sees that I have my plywood in there. It's zoomed in right now. There's my circle. I got my cut settings, and let's just process this. I think it's sending it over to the machine. I'm gonna hit start. And that happened really fast, even before Daniel can get over there with the camera. So let's see if that dowel fits in there. I think that's gonna be pretty good for registration. Now, we can move on to the actual legs. I don't know what this was. I can get 2 legs on each one of these boards. So I can cut 2 at a time. And we're gonna draw our registration circle in here, which is 0.37 by 0.37. We hit OK. Yeah, that's probably good right there. I'm gonna put another one over here, and then 3's probably excessive, but let's do 3. So I'm gonna take that, copy it, paste it, flip that around. Now we can send this to the xTool P2. I'm gonna throw my plywood sheet into the laser here. The camera sees the plywood board that we just put in there. There are my legs with my registration holes. We are going to go to cut, 100% power, 30% speed, process, start. Look at that. Probably go a little bit more powerful with the laser because it didn't cut through on some parts. Oh yeah, a little slower, so it cuts all the way through. For the first cut, that's pretty good. Almost nailing in the settings on the first cut. Ah, yes. Decrease the speed a little bit. It fell right out. What I like about the software, it has a button that says process again. So I can just hit that and hit start, and we're good to go. Got one leg done, now I gotta cut the other. So I went ahead and cut the dowels, and so now we're going to glue these up. if everything goes as planned, these dowels should register and everything should be perfect. I know, it still looks like it was cut on a laser. We're going to do some pretty cool things to make it look like it wasn't cut on a laser. All right. Last one goes on there. And we'll try to get these lined up. So now, we can pound these dowels in there. And that should align everything right up. Tighten all those down and then rinse and repeat on the other. This is using all my Harbor Freight clamps. I don't want it to look like it was cut on a laser, so we're gonna cut some thick walnut for the sides, and then we're gonna cut veneers for the edges. The reason I'm using thick walnut for the sides instead of veneer is that way I can round over the edges for a nice smooth feel. So we'll let that set aside while we go look for some walnut. I need walnut that's about 1/4 of an inch thick. Places like KenCraft, they do sell 1/4 of an inch material. I got some walnut laying around that came from a tree, and I'm just gonna make my own 1/4 inch material here.
You came from a tree?
This walnut came from a tree, yes.
Okay, but KenCraft walnut doesn't come from.
I don't know where KenCraft walnut comes from. I do know that this came from a tree. KenCraft does sell online, check them out. Locally, family-owned business, awesome, amazing people.
But their wood doesn't come from trees.
I don't know, I'm just saying I don't know where their wood comes from. I just know that this came from a tree. That is how you make walnut. Now, of course, yes, you can buy 1/4 inch walnut from places like KenCraft. So I already, where'd it go? Where'd it go? I already did a test cut, 100% power, speed of 20. Select all, 100% power. There we go. We'll hit process, send it over to the machine. All right, they fall right out of there. I made them slightly oversized from the pieces that we cut earlier because I know I'm gonna wanna sand down that burnt edge there. So, first things first, we got more to cut. We still need 3 more of the big pieces and 2 more of the little pieces. Ah, my wood split. So, got the little pieces. Ah, that's a bummer. My wood split right there. That's why you don't make your own walnut. This is the piece that split during cut, and this is all that is left of the 1/4 inch walnut that we made. And it is just long enough. There's probably like 1/8 of an inch longer than what this needs to be. We're about to test how accurate this camera is because there is no room for play. So the P2 has a camera built in here to give you a preview of the material on the bed, and this will show up in the software to help you line up the cuts. So we'll position our cuts just to see how accurate these previews are. Oh, I think we got it. I can't even, look at that. Like, how close can you get? That is so freaking close. Good job, camera. So I think we can take the clamps off of this now. For the plywood pieces, I've cut the whole thing out of 1 piece, but for the veneers, I cut it out of 2 pieces so it looks like there's joinery right there. And I have the grain going this way on this piece and the grain going this way on this piece. And this is going to be about 1 1/8 inches thick. Before I glue these on, I think I want to veneer the edges because I don't want to use a veneer over top of the solid wood that we cut. I know I keep calling these veneers. I'm gonna call this 1/4 inch walnut from now on, and I'm gonna call the veneer, even though all of it is veneering, which is super confusing. You get it, right? You get it. So we got some of this walnut paper back veneer. I got a big roll of it, and I am just going to cut some thin strips out of this. Now that we got our veneers cut, we're gonna glue them in. Mostly going to use wood glue. I'm gonna use a little bit of CA glue on the ends just to kind of help me out. Put that right there, and then we'll tape that down. We're just going to glue on the outside pieces right now. I gotta make a modification to the inside. I'll explain why in a little bit. Also had a wardrobe malfunction. Not gonna explain that at all. So, just gonna add some glue. We'll just glue that guy right on there. And then we will glue this guy right on here. I wanna make sure we got a nice tight seam right there, so it looks like we got fancy joinery going on right there. And we're just gonna use these clamps to clamp it down. We got the outside pieces glued up. The inside pieces, I need to make a modification. For the magazine rack, I was going to route a groove for the back to kind of slide into this groove when I should have just cut that groove out on the laser. So I'm gonna take the pieces that I already cut, put them back in the laser. But to line this up, we're gonna do this cool little trick. Check this out. I need to cut out a slot in here that's gonna act as a dado for our shelf. I don't wanna cut a whole new piece, so I wanna cut it out of the existing pieces. To do that, I've got a scrap piece of plywood in there that I am going to cut this shape out of, and that's going to let me know exactly where the laser is going to cut. So then I can set this piece inside that template, and it'll cut right where I want it. So now I should be able to remove that centerpiece, and then I can set this in there to cut out my slot. In the software here, I can just remove that outside vector, delete that, and now it'll cut that slot exactly where I need to. Ha! We did it. Now we can glue on the other side. So I'm gonna put some spacers in there just to make sure we keep that gap the way we want it. Don't let that dry. I think that is gonna work just fine. For the magazine rack, I got some 3mm walnut plywood that I did get from xTool, and I'm cutting a pattern out on here. This is purely decorative, just to give it some visual interest. This is going to match the top that we're gonna cut in the next step. So now we're getting ready to cut the top. Again, this is gonna be a whole bunch of layers, so it looks like a nice big thick piece of walnut. We have moved the laser because I was a little disappointed in the exhaust system of it. It wasn't removing all the smoke. And Daniel's like, I think our hose is a little too long, and then it was doing all these curves. And so we removed the really long hose, we moved it closer to the window, and now we got a straight shot out the window, and the exhaust works 1,000 times better. The top is longer than the bed in there, so we're gonna do it in 2 sections, which will make sense here shortly. So this top is longer than what the laser could cut. So it's in 2 pieces. So I got one going this way, one going this way. Then we'll take the next layer, we'll flip it around this way. We'll just stagger them. And again, we'll use pegs to register the alignment. Get some clamps on that. I ain't mad at that at all. You can never have enough woodworkers telling you you can never have enough clamps. Had some glue squeeze out, so I'm sanding the edges. So now we are going to edge band this with veneer. So I'm cutting my veneer slightly too wide. So I'm gonna have the veneer wrap around, and there's going to be a seam on the back, making sure it's just barely sticking up top and bottom so we can sand it flush. We're gonna do a little cool pattern on the top. So while this is drying, I'm gonna mill up some more walnut. Again, I enjoy the milling process. I like making my own wood. You can always just buy the thickness of walnut that you need. For the top, we're gonna do some fancy stuff. For the bottom here, I'm just going to veneer it with this paperback walnut. We'll glue that on there at the same time we glue the top on. Back to the magazine shelf, I'm gonna try to glue these two pieces together. The great thing about having that thick walnut on the sides, I can round over the edges. Now it is time to glue that magazine rack into the dados that we cut earlier, and it fits in there perfectly. And that is going to add some strength to the corners here. I will probably have to reinforce that later. I'll figure that out. I might just use like a little shelf bracket and epoxy that right on there. Oh, such a perfect fit. Oh my gosh, that is so nice. I'm gonna throw a clamp on here and let that dry. I drew up this top design in Adobe Illustrator. Those angle boxes are the same angles as the boxes on the magazine rack, and it's also the same angle as the leg. So there's some continuity within the piece. Most of this is going to be cut out of the walnut that we just milled up, except those angle boxes, which I'm going to use this birch. We're gonna honor the inside birch by bringing a little bit to the surface. Good idea, Dale. It's gonna go in there like that. Oh yeah, I am liking that. That's looking really good. I'm gonna tape everything together. The last piece of tape is gonna go right there. And then this, careful, is gonna get glued right on there. For the, whoa, that's too much. Sometimes you just don't know how much is gonna come out. And then I'll get some glue on the other piece, and I'm gonna let them dry. We let the glue dry on both pieces, and if I center this on here, and so the iron is melting the glue between the two pieces for a good strong bond. So for the top, it's too thick to iron. This is gonna go on top, just like that. Make sure we got slight overhang on all sides. You can never have enough woodworkers telling you you can never have enough. This is looking so good. All with a laser. No other power tools at all.
And an iron.
And an iron's not a power tool. That has dried, that looks really good. We're gonna sand everything down before attaching it to the legs. To attach the top, we're just gonna use dowels. I got a piece of wood in there. It's temporary just to kind of sturdy this up as we drill the holes. To transfer the hole positions to the top piece, I'm gonna use these dowel centers. That's gonna go right in there. I have the top sitting on those dowel centers, and I think I have everything where I want it. So I can just take a rubber mallet and it should transfer those hole positions on the other side. So now I can drill these out. And glue these guys in. Add a little more glue around the grand finale. Hey Daniel, we made this with a laser. Some final sanding and some finishing, and we are done. This is my 4th desktop laser. I've had a full spectrum, a laser box, and a Glowforge Pro, and this is by far the best out of all of them, and it's much cheaper and has a lot more features than a Glowforge Pro. Instead of a typical honeycomb tray, it has these removable slats. This is an optional riser, and it has this removable tray for easy cleaning. It also has different bed heights depending on the size of your material. And it's got a pass-through for boards that are bigger than your laser. You can actually get a conveyor belt that feeds your work into the machine for limitless long engravings. That is bonkers. What desktop machine can do that? I have the conveyor belt, I just don't have the room to hook it up right now. On my second channel, we're gonna dive into that conveyor belt and see what we can do. That's gonna be fun. So if you're not subscribed to the second channel, you might wanna check that out. I just found out, and this is bonkers, Daniel, this thing can scan curved surfaces and engrave and cut on curved surfaces.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know that it could do that. So if you have a bowl with a curved surface, you can engrave on that curved surface so the head moves up and down. I love that the camera is not attached to the lid and it's inside. This allows me to scan the bed surface and bring that preview into the software while the lid's open. It just helps for a better workflow. It's got 2 cameras in there, and as we found out today, they're pretty darn accurate. This does work with light burn. I've never used light burn, but for some people that is a must. Not all lasers work with light burn, so it does. The software that comes with it, I would say is pretty darn impressive. Easy to use, easy to understand, and you can draw right within the app. A lot of times I just need to cut a small little circle. I don't want to draw a circle in one program, import it into another, and then send it to the laser. That just makes the workflow so much easier. Also, the software is not cloud-based. It is on your desktop. It doesn't send anything to the internet to send it to the machine like some others. It's 55 watts, it cuts 26 inches by 14. You can get a rotary module, which hooks up back here. My only criticism of this machine is the exhaust system. It's pretty decent, but it's not perfect. It made my air quality meter go nuts. That's pretty typical with any desktop laser. And it is a thing that is fixable. You can get an external exhaust and hook it on there. I'm pretty picky about air quality. That's why I have this air filtration system with a CO2 filter and then this meter to monitor the air in here. I want to do this for a very long time, so what I breathe in is pretty important to me. If you were to ask me if this is worth the money, without a doubt, without hesitation, I would say absolutely yes. Some crazy features for a desktop laser. I'll have an affiliate link to this down in the description. If you're on the fence of getting a laser or a CNC, I've got a video that compares the two. As always, be safe, have fun, stay passionate, and make something.